Hi, ladies. Welcome again to the Afro Boss Lady podcast. I have an amazing host today. I can't wait for you to really hear her story and how she has become the boss woman that she is. So we have here Edidiong. So can you please tell my viewers, followers, who you are and what you do?
Okay, so my name is Edidiong Obot, and I am a first generation Nigerian American. I was born here in Houston, Texas. My parents are both Nigerian. We are from Akwa Ibom as well, so lots of people know Yoruba and Igbo and Hausa. But we are that very unique and special group of people. I tell people when you meet an Akwa Ibomite, you need to hold on to them because we're very rare and we're very unique.
That's the first time I'm meeting.
That's it. See. So I am Nigerian American. I did have 2 degrees. I have my first degree in chemistry, and my second degree is in environmental toxicology.
Okay.
So I've been in the environmental sphere for over 10 years now, doing that, doing STEM, all those different things. And so that's kind of like my 9 to 5 job, right? Then when I start my real work, my real work consists of just being really community involved. So in any aspect that deals with, I think my main passion is how can my people, when I say my people, not just Nigerians, but just African immigrants, whether you were born here or your parents or whatever the case is, how can they get that information that Americans have? How can they be privy to that? How can they get access to it? Lots of times what I see is the information is out there and it's accessible, but then they don't really know where to go and get it.
Where to start.
Right.
Yeah.
And so since I'm here and I'm able to learn and navigate those waters, I want to be able to take that information and bring it back to my community.
Okay.
That may be my church community, may be my parents' associations, my own associations, whatever those things are, so that we can freely and easily access the things here in America without having to feel like I'm starting from scratch or I don't really know what to do. It's like you have a lot of especially like first generational people who are able to easily navigate the waters of being American and also being from your home country, right? Once you can learn what's going on here in America, it's easy to bring those things back home and help your other people who may not know how to start their business or how to, get health care for free or how to just do different things, that are easy and free and accessible to everybody here in America. So I have 2 TV shows. The first one is It's Our Time. And It's Our Time is literally what it says. It literally is our time to shine the light on people in the African diaspora that are doing great things, especially young people. They are entrepreneurs, they are entertainers, they are artists, they are so many different things. And I feel like sometimes we have to toot our own horn. We have to. We're in that Black History Month. And so I like to tell people, like, we too are a part of Black history. We're literally shaping, our own Black history as well, and adding to all that rich heritage and knowledge that Americans have had over the years, in regards to Black history. So, for those people who are Nigerian American, Cameroonian American, whatever those things are that, from your country and American, you're doing great things, and those things should be highlighted as the first to do this, the first to do that, the first person to navigate whatever waters that you're navigating, whether it's in science or in arts or in whatever the thing is. Your name too should be mentioned among those rising people that are adding to Black history.
Definitely. So how did you get started?
How did I get started?
Which one started first?
In regards to
the TV show, because I know you already have the career going,
right?
And then while you were working full time, that's when you created all these different other businesses?
You know, it's always been a passion. I think that when I start talking about like just my own personal life, my upbringing, learning, you know, being Nigerian and also learning to be American, all in like one household, and also in like that space, right? And I tell people like at home, you know, it's like little Nigeria. Then when you come out of home, it's like
America.
Like they said, this is America,
This is America.
right? And that's exactly what it is, because at home, you know, my parents were very, especially my dad, was very stickler about speaking proper English, you know, but also like they also spoke to me in our language, and our language is Efik and our dialect is Anan. So they would speak to me, you know, hey, you know, my mom, when I was little, she'll tell your dad to come and eat. And I say, okay, daddy, Edidiong Chrys. And he'll come and he'll eat, you know. Those are the little things that we spoke that at home. I can't say that at like a school.
Outside of the house.
One, I don't know that many Okaiwo people that would actually know the language for me to say, Edidiong Chrys. Like, you know, that's one. Two, back then it just wasn't really that cool to be like African. Let's just, if we just be very honest with ourselves, it was not cool to have an accent, to smell like stockfish, or bring lunch that was like rice and stew with goat meat and plantains. Like everybody else had Lunchables. They had sandwiches, the white bread,
yogurt
with the ham and the cheese. I told my mom, I said, "Mom, why can't I have the white bread with the cheese?" Why, you know, like I wanted those things because that's what like other children at school they were bringing. You know, that's what they were doing. And then I so much so like hid my accent. Like I hid the way I said my name. I'll just tell people, you know, my name is Edidiong, you know, give that little African American black twang to it. It's like, oh, that's cool, I like that. Instead of actually properly saying my name is Edidiong with the accent so that people can actually say it correctly. Or, you know, just the way I did my hair. I just try to make sure that I fit in as best as I can, because I didn't want to be, you know, called out for, oh, you didn't have this, or, you know, whatever they you know, young kids, you make fun of people for whatever different reasons. And that was back then, and it wasn't like until...
But then it's funny because you're saying it was back then, and I'm still thinking it's still happening.
It still happens,
it's still happening.
But the difference now is like, now it's cool to be African. Like, and I say that because now, like, I can speak in my accent freely without having to think that this person's gonna make fun of me, or it's like I don't care, because like there became like this like shift where Nigerians specifically and just Africans were able to kind of like come out of their shell. Like now you started hearing the accents, now you started hearing the jokes, now you start seeing a lot of more print, like, you know, what I have on, or even lace. Back then lace was the thing. You start seeing a lot more of those things. Now you start inviting people to, oh, this person's having a wedding or baby shower or whatever, and you now are able to open up that culture to them. And, you know, we thank God, because a lot of people have been very receptive to it. They, oh, I'm going to go to this, I want to go to that. And now you have a lot of things on TV and on radio that are able to showcase, you know, the different cultures in Africa, you know, and how they translate here in the diaspora, how we still do some of those different things here. You know, big things are always weddings, you know.
And I also think one of the reasons, because when you say back then, I was just thinking of my personal experience when I moved here 2007, and those little stereotypical things that were just like, if you're African, it means that you're less than. It was really, for me, that was a culture shock, because I was really proud of where I was coming from, and I was really ignorant, if you can say like that. I just thought everybody would be excited. You know, I'm from Cameroon, like, and the way people, like, I wish at that time, right, not now, but at that time I had wished that I had a different accent. And the thing is that I wasn't even speaking English, because I had to learn to speak English. But the fact that I had my Cameroonian French accent, it was already, for me, was a thing that making friends in university wasn't as easy. Making American friends, having American friends. There were a lot of pushback. I don't want to say rejection, right? But there were a lot of, oh, she has an accent, she can barely speak English, don't, we're not even gonna entertain her. So I think my first 2 years were pretty much like that. So it was just natural for me to just go into the cocoon of my African, brothers and sisters that I met during those ESL courses. But when you say back then, that's what I was thinking. Like, no, 2007, I was dealing with.
Oh, when I say back then,
African culture is not. It's
true.
Not cute.
True.
Yeah.
I'm also referencing like 90s as well as like 2000s.
And I'm sure it really changed. I mean, because I just came 2007.
Right.
So from my experience, I was just shocked. I was like, what?
Right.
I thought that was cool.
And when I say 2000s, I mean like early 2000s. Because like I said, like even for me, when I went to prom, I was so like, yes, I'm about to put on my African lace. Girl, tied a whole galette and everything. I was not playing with them. Oh, yes, I did.
Did you?
I sure did. Girl was in there. Had the whole get up. I sure did. And walked in there and it was just, everybody was just looking like, it was only, I think only 2 or 3 of us that had like native attire on. And I was proud. I was like, yes. Now would I think about that like maybe earlier? Probably not. Give me one regular dress like that and keep it moving. But it was like that shift was happening. I feel like, and like you came in 2007. I think like maybe 2004 to 2005, like that shift was happening. Like a lot of people were more proud to display where they're from, whether they were born here or they were born somewhere else. They were now proud to like rep it, and they took control of that narrative of not being outcasted for being different than somebody else who is born in America or in this American society, I should really say. So for me, that's just kind of been like my upbringing, and kind of like it's been similar for a lot of people who either they move here, they always, like you said, there's like some kind of struggle between trying to create that network of Americans, because you have to first break the barrier of either the accent. Some people, I can't hear what you're saying, or
I got that a lot.
Or just
like, what are you saying? What are you saying?
Right. Or like the foods that you eat.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, what is that? Ew, that stinks. Or to like just try it. And now, what I should say, like now we're in the age where a lot of people have been exposed to different cultures, right? Different African cultures. Now there's also, to add to that, different types of restaurants that you can go to, different cuisines that you can try, that have both that, cultural fusion of American and whatever, or it's just native, like this is the raw thing. You want to get some suya, you go here. You want to get some.
But then you're also speaking about, we in Houston. So Houston have a lot of diversity.
True.
Because I used to live in Minnesota. And Minnesota, for me, from experience, I did not. I used to live in St. Cloud, and then from St. Cloud, I went temporarily to Minneapolis, and I did not see any African restaurant. People were just so. It depends where in the U.S.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's true.
Because Houston or Texas in general is really diverse in that way.
That's true, but also I'll say this because. Yes, Houston, you can get that first-hand experience on regards to food. But even like in Minnesota, maybe you may not be able to get it, but because you're watching like television programs that are doing like cuisine, you're at least exposed to what it is. Somebody else is trying it, and they're telling you how it tastes, what it's similar to. So now at least there is education.
And then we have YouTube.
Right.
We have YouTube where there's, you can find anything.
Right. So now like there is access to information. Yeah. You're exposed. Now you can be educated on the foods, the different type of people, not kind of walk around ignorantly categorizing everybody in one area or in one thing and kind of giving them a stereotype. Now we can break those things down. And like I said, we've been seeing it over the years. You know, obviously you see it in fashion. A lot more people are willing to wear print now, as opposed to back then. It's kind of like, oh, you wear that Kunta Kinte cloth, you know.
And I also
whatever.
think because it's the way the media portrays
it, yeah.
Africa. And when I say Africa, Africa as the continent, not the country.
Right.
But it's the way they portrayed Africa. Like if you're an American, for example, and you've never been to Africa, you don't have any African friends, and you're watching TV, and you're seeing the kids, you know, the hungry kids,
Right.
and who's looking for water, or who's, you know, have AIDS and things like that. And when you see people coming from that culture, your first reaction is, oh my God, like these people have gone through a lot.
Right.
So I think anything associated that were associated to Africa at that time, like the African print, was seen as if it was, this is poor people
Where.
Right.
I will say to that, like, not to say that they aren't people or there aren't third world countries in Africa, because those things are happening.
They're still happening.
But it's like you said, it's how the media paints that picture, because quite in Africa and Nigeria, they don't paint America as a place where there's a lot of gun violence, there's a lot of, you know, school massacres, there's a lot of racial profiling and all those things. They paint America as a place where it's the land of the free, the home of the brave. You can get that American dream, your white picket fence, your 9-to-5 job.
Don't you think it's American painting that picture? Because
that's what I'm saying. They are creating that story for people to come to this place and thrive. And so our America is not going to paint that picture of, like we said, violence. Like somebody else would have to paint that picture and then post it out there and say, look at what's going on. And you saw that with the civil rights movement. Everybody thought that, oh, this is the industrial age. Everybody is thriving. You have cars, you have this and that. Meanwhile, there is literally violence happening in the South to a specific group of people, which is African Americans. And once that now leaked outside of the American borders to other cities, other, you know, countries, other places, people began to see that, oh, America is kind of racist, you know? But again, it's how you paint that story. So if somebody is painting our story as we, you know, Africans are, you know, destitute, we're impoverished, we're this and that. So when you meet one, you may have that stereotype. It's not until most recently, like, you're seeing people who are thriving, right, in Africa. You're seeing the beautiful beaches and the landscapes. You're seeing, you know, high fashion, high class, and all those things have been there. And it's not new.
Yeah, and I think that's why what you do in terms of, you know, creating that bridge with African culture, American culture, and giving people, this is who we are, and those are the opportunities that you can find as an African who come in the US, or as somebody who's African American who wants maybe to go back to Africa. I think we have to take control. I mean, when I say we, I'm talking about specifically Africans have to take control of the narrative. I think when we look back, it wasn't us telling the stories of Africa. Like, even the media, we were not in control of those media. So we were also a victim where people thought Africa is just a place of poverty and huts and no water, which is still happening.
That's what these things are actually happening, but it's now, we want you, as you see those things, to understand and not just judge, right? You need to understand, like, why there isn't water in this specific rural area, why there's huts instead of, you know, concrete everywhere. It may be just a cooler, you know, way to actually, because of the weather, you know, all those different things. There needs to be more education behind that, and education honestly has to go beyond TV. Now it has to be real person to person, life to life experiences that you are having conversations and dialogue, like us, you know, you actually can have the opportunity to have a one-on-one experience with someone and tell them, hey, what does that mean, as opposed to getting that secondhand knowledge from the book or TV.
Yeah.
You can get firsthand directly from somebody who is of that, descent, and just ask, just a mere question. And I think too is being open, right?
Mm-hmm.
Being open, one, to understand that not everybody knows everything, not even myself. I don't know everything about my own culture,
Mm-hmm.
but I do know what I do know, right? And accepting that we all have that little bit of ignorance towards your own culture, ignorance towards African American culture, ignorance towards American culture in general. I think that was a key thing for me that I had to understand, was that as much as I can fit in, I have an American accent, I also have a Nigerian accent. I know some, African American, twangs and slangs and things, food, movies, etc., music. I don't know everything, right?
Yeah.
So when people would assume that I'm just African American, oh, you never watched that movie? No, I didn't watch that movie. Like, I don't even know what it is. That's a staple. Okay.
I mean,
I can go back and watch it, but I've never. Right, know. But it's like, have you seen this other movie, this Nollywood movie? You haven't seen that? Oh my God, this is, so I can easily do the same. I think that we have to both recognize our ignorance in each other's cultures and even in our own cultures, but also be open enough to relate and share our experience, right? And that will help educate you. So you're not walking around ignorantly judging or saying something that's incorrect.
And I also want to add something, guys. For my personal experience, interacting with different people, and Africa is, my story, I can give you the experience of Cameroon because that's where I was born, but you can go to somebody who's from Zambia and they can give you a totally different experience. Mm-hmm. And I also think us African, when for a long time we used to hide those stories because we just did not want to paint the picture of Africa is a bad place or it's a poverty, it's a third world country. So many of us actually hear that story from people, and I know some people, I'm not gonna name them, but I know some people that still have coworkers that don't even know where they're really from and that don't share those type of information, and that's why I'm going back to what you were saying. We first of all have to change the narrative, and we have to be able to actually open the conversation with other people, because I have, like I was saying, I know some people that I had asked them, because I'm so open with my culture, we talking about Cameroon, even at my workplace, right? And I remember this person specifically telling me, I can't tell them because I was poor back home. Who wants to know how I was poor? I felt like he felt like it would be shameful to actually tell Americans, his co-workers, this is how I grew up, this is how I lived. And I think it also comes from that place. So not all people, all Africa, even though things have changed, I feel like there are still some people that are not willing to share those information.
But as much as he's not willing to share that information, there are also some people, whether they're African American or not, they're not willing to share that information too, on how they struggled, how they may have grew up with. And the funny thing is that their lives might be just really parallel, but in different countries. Maybe they grew up, they're one of 5 or one of 6. They all slept in the same room. They all had to figure out how they were going to share meals. We all had to go to school. We all had to do all those different things. And just the struggle was just very real, but in 2 different places. And obviously you have different circumstances, but as far as just that struggle, you can relate. But when you don't open up and you don't share, it makes it seem as if one person's going to judge you for not being at a certain place or meeting a certain standard or stereotype that most people see. And that's on both cases. That's for both Africans and that's for both African Americans, because when you begin to open up your circle more with different types of cultures, and it's not even just limited to Africans. It's, Latinos. There's Indians, Caribbeans. A lot of people have the same kind of struggle, or similar struggles that people here in America may have. Even with all the things that America affords you, there are people who are still poor.
Yeah,
There are
because
people
if
who
you
are
look-
still homeless. There are
if you
people
look at
who
it,
are
there's still minorities.
exactly.
I mean, the only thing with third world countries is that we do have resources, but that are not well managed. That's another story.
Right. That is
But
the story.
that's another story. But we have those struggles that
Right.
maybe some African Americans we experience here, just because for them it's not really the fact that America is hard. It's really because they are a minority.
Right.
I mean,
And that's key. You know, being a minority in a country that your ancestors helped build. You know, that's a different story than being from a country where they're still building.
yeah.
Right.
Mhm.
And so they're not only just still building, but they're still trying to put together like things in place. Compared to like America, your ancestors helped build it and things are in place, but now you're being disenfranchised, or you're being, profiled, or you're being discriminated against because of the color of your skin. It's a difference where you're still building and maybe corruption takes place.
Yeah.
Or like you said, mismanagement of resources,
Mhm.
or you're still trying to put things in place, like society wise, changing the way people think, in regards to like, genital mutilation and all those different
All
things.
the
Like
things.
people are still struggling with those kind
Yeah.
of societal things, whereas in America, the shift of those cultural things have already evolved. That's why I say there's difference in history, and I think that's why I go back to being open, one, to share those differences, and then two, like accepting your own ignorance about each other's history, but also about your own, because you may not know everything.
Yeah.
Your ancestors are the ones that know it. You have, history that will kind of tell you a little bit of it, but you won't know everything.
Yeah.
So that's why, I like to try to bridge that gap and let people like understand each other. We're all having our different struggles. We all have different upbringings. We're all struggling now in whatever it is that we're doing. But if we can kind of have that understanding and maintain that understanding and be open, then be willing to help each other.